All right, everybody, welcome to our Team Passion call. We are honored tonight to have the co-creator of Shakeology, Ultimate Reset, Daily Sunshine, all that good stuff here, Darin Olien, to share with us. So grateful that you guys are taking some time to be able to chat with our smaller teams here and just really get one-on-one and personal with us and just share your knowledge. So thank you.
You're welcome. I love talking about this stuff.
One of the things that I know kind of the corporate guy kind of gave us a little script and stuff, but one of the things that I've always loved, like I said, I've been a coach for 8 years now. And I've always loved, like, I still share with people that video of you, like, riding the bike through Peru and just like being that ingredient hunter and just really finding the superfoods. I would love for the team, because we have a lot of new people, so I would love for the team to kind of hear your background on how that all started and your superfood, love for superfoods and how that just all came about.
Yeah, I'll try to make it as concise as possible, but it was really out of the necessity, the need for myself. The longer story, which I won't get into many details, is I was born 2 months early, and I kind of struggled through my childhood, having a lot of physical issues and things like that. So the importance of that is it put into me this idea that our bodies are fragile in this world. And so at 13, I did my first cleanse, and it was the first time I realized what I'm putting in my mouth is affecting how I feel. And then at 16, I picked up my first dumbbell, and then realized, oh, if you work out, you can also make yourself feel better and stronger and all that stuff. So that informed me as a child of saying, listen, what we do is largely affecting us. And then I got hurt playing college football. And that's when, in college, playing football, I couldn't play anymore. And then I said, well, I'm in college. I love the physiology and nutrition stuff. So I changed my major because I was frankly depressed, because I was pissed off that I couldn't play anymore. So I had a lot of motivation. And so that motivation as a kid informed me then as an adult to then study it. In this pursuit of it, I'm from a small town in Minnesota. I have a father that was an agricultural professor at the University of Minnesota, surrounded by farmers. So for me, seeing food systems, seeing herbal systems, seeing people do things, I was seeing poor quality. I was seeing non-transparencies. So when I started formulating, well before Beachbody, I told myself, well, I'm kind of the salt of the earth person. I need to go see the farmers. I need to go learn where they're from, and understand that process, and understand the people, frankly, because people actually are the backbone of a formula, the backbone of Shakeology. At the end of the day, seeds are put in the ground and plants grow. And that's what is then carefully dried and processed in order to get in that bag. So that was the start. It was out of a necessity that I had as an injured person. And then when I learned more, I started literally running around the planet, not because I wanted to be a superfood hunter. I did it because ethically and morally, it made the sense of me fully taking responsibility for the things that I was working with, to better understand them and to work with them from an integrity standpoint. That's how it all happened. And then in that process, I was developing formulas and things, and not losing, but spending a lot of money on these travels. It was serendipity, really, when I met Isabel and Carl, and they saw what I was doing. They saw the connections I had, all that stuff. So long story short, they hired me to help, put this formula together. And Isabel and I really came from the idea that, and the responsibility of like, okay, if Carl, you're giving us the license to fully put something in the market that's never been put in the market before, then what are we doing? What is it for? And so that was very clear. We asked the questions of, listen, at the end of the day, we're in this modern day stressful world with an agricultural community and a government that's known that our foods are although we have abundance of food, we have a lack of nutrients in our food. And so we're dealing with high stress of modern day situations and low quality food. We have to fill that gap. So that being said, I exposed myself all over the world to some of the greatest botanicals in the world that have been used indigenously and epidemiologically for a long period of time for reasons, because of their nutrient density, because of their compounds that help facilitate the body optimizing and healing itself. So that's the genesis. And then how can we create a delivery system that could put these botanicals together effectively, safely, and then get it to people and actually make it taste good so that people would actually consume it. And that was really the start and the focus, and why Shakeology has these buckets of prebiotics and probiotics and enzymes and certainly a very powerful and important category of adaptogenic herbs that are directly dealing with body strains and stresses and recoveries. Those types of things were the cornerstone of filling that question of what do we require in this day and age that would help facilitate us better than what we're dealing with now, because of our systems that may work on one level but lack things on another level. So that's essentially the story that got this whole ball rolling.
Yeah, love it. I just love hearing, like, when going to like those farms and finding, all of the ingredients and stuff. I know, I don't know if I've got this story right, so maybe you can share it with us, but what was the story behind finding that vanilla bean in Madagascar that was such a process that took so many years to find the right vanilla bean to get the vanilla on the market?
Well, first off, we're starting with like, hey, the second most consumed flavor on the planet is vanilla next to chocolate. And that's just throughout the world. Only to Peru, that has this flavor called lucuma, which is a whole another story, that has an incredible flavor. But for the most part, the world loves vanilla and chocolate. So we're like, okay, cool, vanilla, no problem. Let's create vanilla. The biggest problem with vanilla is it doesn't have the constituents and the strength of a flavor on its own, whereas chocolate is so dominant. So it's easy to kind of formulate with chocolate because it can cover all of the kind of intense botanicals that are a part of Shakeology. So, okay, let's create vanilla. But the more I was digging into the flavor world, I kept bumping up against these flavor houses that, even though I said natural and all that stuff, they kept spitting back these flavors that were not natural. And then because flavors wasn't my world, so I had to learn. And so what I found was, and the FDA has bylaws within what's natural flavor, and some of those things, flow agents and other stability molecules in there, were deemed okay under their natural substance or natural flavor. And that wasn't okay with me, and it wasn't okay with us at Beachbody. So when I realized they kept saying, yes, it's safe and it's under the rules, I realized that we had to change the rules for us and then go back to the flavor system and the flavor houses to figure out how to do it without these chemicalized propylene glycols and so on and so forth that are essentially over time harmful from my point of view and from my and our research. So to stay away from that, we thought we were close, but then we were discovering through this process that we weren't getting clean product. So we had to pull it, and it was ready to launch, and we pulled it. And then we had to go back to the drawing board. And it turned out that Madagascar is a home for incredibly great growing of vanilla. They have a long history of indigenously growing, and vanilla is actually incredibly difficult. Not too hard to grow, but incredibly hard to dry it, procure it, and mature it so that the vanillins and the things come out. So, long story short, we found these strong vanilla, and also then we decided to pay the extra that was part of a sustainable community that would then help to give back to the community and support these people. So instead of using chemicalized vanilla, which most products on the market are using, we decided to go to the source, and also on top of that, help the indigenous people by paying what we need to pay so that they can have sustainable living conditions and so on and so forth. So that was a great testament for another feather in the hat of what Beachbody committed to me and Isabel in terms of us doing this right. Because there's a lot of things that you will never know about many of the companies that they're, cutting corners here and there, and you'll never know it. They'll never talk about it. You'll never know enough chemistry to understand it. But over time, you're getting exposed to things that aren't great for you. And that's the problem with food systems and the food out there. And it's a problem with the supplement industry. And a lot of that is also naive by the companies. They're just buying it. And they're not at the source. They're not dealing with the people, and they're not sending their teams themselves over to test and audit these facilities. And that's really now getting into the procurement of Shakeology. That's really where our separation happens between us and some product that might be trying to steal what we're doing or copy us, or saying they're better, but are they spending the millions of dollars every year sending their teams to get on their hands and knees and check these facilities? And most aren't. And so that's something that we're extremely proud of, and the culture that was set from day one and is not compromised. So again, that's part of the story that you all as coaches should tell and need to tell, because it's different than just looking at the back of the bags and saying, well, hey, this company has it too. And I'm like, okay, if you're able to then talk to their formulator and their research and develop, and they're able to say the same things I am, more power to you. And if they're spending the millions and the hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that testing themselves, then great, more power to you. But most aren't. That's really the separation. Is it a sexy story? No, but it's a real story, and that's the difference, a major difference of what we're doing and what other people are not.
And that's what I love that. And this stuff is what, like, every time I go to an event or something, and there's always a panel where I can listen to you and Isabel speak, I go, because this is the stuff that I've been listening to for 8 years and hearing you say. And so I can say those things with confidence that you're not going to get your $60 bag that you can grab at GNC. It's not the same. It's not even close. Like, you can't even compare it. And I'm glad that you're sharing these types of stories with the team, even though they're not, like you said, they're not sexy, but they're they are so important for us to know as coaches. And it's hard. I was sharing this with Isabel too, and asking her, like, it's hard for us as coaches, because there's so much out there and there's so many products that promise so many things. And when we try to share Shakeology and the importance of people being on it consistently, it's hard because the fitness part is easier to share, right? Like, we can be like, okay, lift these weights and you're going to get muscle, right? But we can't share what's happening to people's insides with Shakeology, right? Like honestly, it's been 8 years, and every day when I take that first sip, it's crazy what your body feels like, that you can feel it. Like,
Yeah.
and it's hard to explain that to, or show them that.
Well, you're right. And it's like, it's eating, right? It's eating, it's consuming nutrient dense food. And the if you want real results, there's tons of studies I can point you to that people did nothing. They didn't even move their body, and they increased the level of nutrient dense food and ate better. So the reality is 80 to 90% of your results are sitting and residing in the nutrient density that you're taking in or not taking in. Mm-hmm. So to me, the people that are grabbing and turning on BOD and doing their workout, man, if you would align your attention to eating well and consuming nutrient dense foods in the shake and everything else, and then move to your results are exponentially faster and better. And of course everyone varies, but you line in the nutrients first, and then work on the exercise portion. It's like that's the fuel that you have or don't have. And so if you're beating the hell out of your body without the proper fuel, you're just causing a stressful situation that your body is unable to deal with as effectively as it could. So changing the mindset of food and nutrition first, as 80% of your results are residing in that, and then ignite it and turn your body on with the exercise, that's like game over. That's when you really align and make those changes. And we all know when we've made dietary changes, how quickly that can happen, right? So
yeah, for sure.
That's the shift I would suggest.
Yeah. Speaking of the ingredients and stuff, I know there's only so much we can say, and we have to send people to doctors and things like that. I get that. We can Jonathan Gelfand this up first. That's what we need to say. But having said that, how can you help us as coaches? We get a lot of people are eating the not so great way, like we just talked about, and then they start Shakeology and their stomach starts turning. They're in the bathroom, they don't feel well, their IBS is acting up, like all things that are going on in their stomach, and they immediately blame it on Shakeology. And we know that there are slower detoxing superfoods in there that are helping their body kind of clean out what damage that has done. But how can we talk about that piece as coaches on if your stomach starts hurting with Shakeology and how to?
Well, I mean, it's a much bigger conversation, which is for me, if I'm at the outside looking in as coaches, I mean, that's the exciting thing, because it's not like you're dealing with an acute situation. You're dealing with an accumulation. So IBS, irritable bowel, diverticulitis, Crohn's, colitis, all of that stuff never just showed up.
Right.
It never was. Maybe there's a few percent that's genetic that would leave you susceptible, only if your lifestyle then supported it. You can shut those doors down by taking care of yourself and eating well. but we're also getting exposed to all kinds of environmental toxins that are causing issues. So it's like a sleeping giant, right? So when you include prebiotics, probiotics, fiber, uh, healing herbs, that kind of thing, the body's doing everything it can to then go, great, I have more ability, I have more tools then to deal with some of the flames that are already occurring, some of the fire that's already happening. Now, that being said, if you're doing something and it's causing you pain and discomfort, then that's an indicator that you need to stop. Get a functional medical doctor, not one that's a regular trained doctor. They do not know anything about nutrition. So let me just say that again. A regular doctor knows nothing about nutrition. Nothing. That is not what they're educated. They're smart, great people, but they do not and have not studied nutrition. So if you go naturopath, functional medicine doctor, a professional, let's be clear, a professional to help, because if you're drinking Shakeology and you're experiencing problems, then that's just a bigger issue. That has nothing to do necessarily with Shakeology. That has to do with you have some stuff that you have to take care of. You may have been exposed to a toxic compound. You may have exposed to antibiotics years ago and never really repopulated your microbiome. You could be under extreme stress. You could have something in your water that you're reacting to. You could have heavy metals that are accumulated in your thyroid. There's a zillion things. So as coaches who really care, I assume you all care about other people. If you see that, or if it's happening to you, then this is an indicator to save some money, do some research, find a functional medicine doctor, get some tests, some nutritional tests where you're reacting to things so that you can combat that fire, because you don't want that to continue, because you'll wake up one day with a much bigger problem. So don't blow off these things, but don't blame something for doing that when it's all of this stuff. 99% of the stuff that's happening to us in our health, aside from getting in accidents and acute things like that, is from a lifestyle-based protocols. We're either getting too much of something, so we're getting exposed to something, or we're not getting enough of the healing properties and the healing qualities of food. So that's where it really goes down to. So when you bring that up, it's just a much bigger Pandora box that really I'd love to address it, but you can't address it to a mass population. All I can do is give you overarching indicators that can help combat that. When you're right, you don't want to blame something that's been tested and full of great qualities, but you do want to take care of yourself and follow that up and figure out why it is that you got inflammatory responses to digestion, because I assume that is not just happening with Shakeology. You're just not perceiving all of it. And that's a big and growing problem this day and age, because of poor quality foods, because of industrialization and things like that.
Are you, I'm just curious, does the team now go out to the farms and with the ingredients and stuff, or are you still involved in that? I know there's like such a bigger team than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But are you able to still get out there to the farmers and talk to the indigenous people and do that part of what you love, or are you kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. I still do that. I always will. We have some of these farmers that have been supplying Shakeology for over 10 years. So they've been friends of mine. And, the follow-up more is the team now of making sure that through the volume demands that we have, that the farmers are in line and have enough projections and things like that. But I still go out and find new stuff and maintain those relationships and things like that. I will always hunt. I will always hunt for health, and I will always look around, because that's the curious part of me. Some ingredients I find just won't fit in Shakeology, won't work. They can't be processed in that way, and so I keep them in the back of my mind for maybe a new product down the line or something else. So.
Can you talk a little bit about that process of, do you have to go right at 6? Do you have another call, or?
I have a few minutes. I have a couple minutes over. I can.
Okay.
So.
Can you just talk a little bit about I know it would be a long conversation, but in a abbreviated, the process of, I know you keep talking about the drying out process, and you don't use any pesticides or anything to kind of get the plant to the powder type thing.
Yeah.
And
how does that work? Yeah. So generally speaking, every of the 60 plus ingredients, they all have their own way of growing. They all have their own way of harvesting. They all have their special way of processing. But generally speaking, it's showing up. Step number one, showing up in the country of origin, figuring out where the best place to grow these things are, meeting the farmers, seeing their growing practices, and then, of course, testing the plants and testing certain things so that what they're saying and what they're doing and what we're seeing is matching. And then it's really from there, the plants will be harvested, and some of which have pre-processing. So if they're dry, like maca, for example, is drying for 3 months in the Andes as full bulbs of maca root before it's then shipped to Lima, where it then goes through the washing, the disinfecting, the dehydration, the chipping, the dehydration. So once a plant is harvested, it then is transported to an already approved, very important, already approved processing center that we've already approved the process, right? And believe me, in countries around the world, if you would have seen what I've seen, you would be freaked out as to the conditions of some of these processing facilities, with goats walking in the door and birds shitting in the drying facility and rats running all over, and people just process that stuff. And if you don't have your own people, they can stamp things, and the FDA doesn't know. It's got the stamp on it. It's got the thing. Believe me. So when it goes to those facilities, we have approved it. We have audited it. We have inspected it. They have to go through our procedure. It's then tested. The fingerprint of like every plant has a particular spectrograph or signature blueprint. And so once we receive that, when it's shipped to the US, we go, okay, is it what it's supposed to be? Because who knows what's happening on the ship? Did someone change it? Whatever. So is that what it's supposed to be? So we check that fingerprint. We go through all the testing again. Does it have the active compounds that we've deemed are important and are been procured through the drying process? So is it active, right? Very important thing. You can grow something, process the hell out of it, heat it a lot, and powder it and throw it in a bottle and still call it maca, still call it moringa, still call it chaga. And you have no idea if all the things you've read on the internet is even in that damn ingredient. Is it even active? Does it even have the constituents that they're talking about? And that's a major problem in the industry. So we check for those things to validation steps. So then once it goes through all safety standards, validation standards, testing standards. Then we do a special blending, and then all of those things. So imagine all I said was all of those ingredients coming from all those places, with all of those tests, with all of those validations of 60 plus ingredients, to then be carefully mixed and to put in that bag so that the bag is active of ingredients. That's a big deal. I mean, that's a really big deal. And when you have ingredients that are in the jungles, on mountaintops over 15,000 feet, and everything in between, what's the point of doing this if we're not going to have powerful plants that are going to be in that bag? What's the point? Like, it would be a waste of my life if we weren't actually validating and testing all this stuff. And so that's how it shows up in this powder. Yes, powder, if you do it correctly and you process it correctly and dehydrate it correctly, you can suspend the activity and then pulverize it. So you're dehydrating everything. So once you dump that powder in water again, now, if you let that sit for a week, guarantee that's going to be a science experiment. So the point is that then you reintroduce water again, and now those active compounds that we've tested that are there will be able to be delivered to your body, and then the journey continues. So that's in a nutshell a very quick but very complex, very engaging and very expensive journey that an ingredient has to go to in order to end up in the bag. Now, we could do this very same thing by calling 10, 20 different brokerage houses that are brokers for these ingredients. And we could just say, hey, copy this formula, and I want my version of Shakeology. And you know what? I could get a sample next week. It would have mostly all of these ingredients in it, but you have no idea where those ingredients are coming from, what was active in them, what are they contaminated with, and are they supporting people in a fair way around the world? You have no idea. No idea. And most companies are not spending the time or the money or the resources in order to know those questions. And we are. So yes, I've spent a lifetime doing this stuff. This is real. They're real people with real ingredients that have gone through a process in order for them to be active and there, so that your body can then receive the nutrients that is filling the void of that first question we asked. What do people require? They require, on a cellular level, a nutrient-rich soup of this necessity, and that's why we've scoured the earth to find some of the greatest botanicals that have been used for tens of thousands of years, so that we could deliver on that standard. So that's essentially a journey of an ingredient plus a little more.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's amazing. Yeah. And that sums up why $130 for this bag isn't really that bad for people to bucket that. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, listen, if we really understand and if we really take health seriously, we always make, and if we want anything in our life, really, like the real things, we can find the money to do that. We can carve our life in order to meet that standard. So for me, I don't know where it came from, but once that kind of place in me in college, when I was depressed and my whole life kind of came together, I told myself, I'm not skimping on food. Like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever, to gamble on giving my body less than optimal nutrition, because I don't know about you guys, I do not in any form want to live this life at being dictated by the level to which my body can operate. Eventually, it's going to happen when I'm 100 years old and I won't be able to walk very well. But the point is, I want a quality of life so I can kick ass. So if I end up at 17,000 feet with a Tibetan looking for a special herb, I can do it because A, I'm still healthy and I take care of myself. So I want to live a fantastic life. So for me, it makes no sense to me to skimp on nutrition, because that you're carrying your body with you everywhere you go. And if that your body and your brain are not feeling well, guess what stops you in having your dream life? Like if you get sick tomorrow, how much are you working? You can't. So you have to let your body get sick. But here's the thing, over time, by not supporting your body, we degenerate, which is called degenerative diseases. That's why they're the number one killers out there. Well, guess what? All of those are created through bad habits. And so this is something that you guys are in an amazing position to be catalysts for people and inspiration for people to go, this is not something you want to gamble with, because we all look around us. Our family members are suffering and in pain and all of that stuff. And largely we look and go, oh my God, their habits are atrocious, right? And then you see them struggling with that same thing. Don't be that person. Don't be that statistic. So this is why we created this convenient bag that shows up to your bloody doorstep from corners of the globe. And that, unfortunately, in this day and age, even eating perfectly, whatever that means, we still require these nutrient-dense superfoods and herbs. So that's my point of view. That's why I put it together in the way that I did. That's why I contributed, because I knew that there was a need. And that's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was so great. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and just keep sharing this knowledge with us. We love just listening to any chance we get social media, wherever we can hear you guys speak of this. So
awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All
Good
right.
to talk with you. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Darin. Have a good day. How was that? Let me stop recording, guys.